Why people are shocked and offended by my MGTOW views. Hello everybody, and welcome to One Mall. In this video, I will talk about the controversial topic of MGTOW. For those who don't know, MGTOW is an acronym for men going their own way, a growing movement of men who are choosing to live their lives without women. Some people find this idea shocking and offensive, but I believe there are some very valid reasons why men should consider living in MGTOW lifestyle. Make sure to stay tuned, like this video, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'd want to discuss another Reddit subject called "We don't want him to date/marry a woman who is incredibly startling and hurtful to people," unquote. It's one of the most popular posts recently on the MGTOW subreddit. So why are women so angry when a man refuses to marry or stops dating women? The solution is straightforward. They need us men but can't admit it to themselves because of cognitive dissonance, which causes women to spew nonsense about being strong and independent and not needing no man. They recognize that every man who leaves the plantation implies that there is more competition for the better men out there. So, if a lady is a 5 and meets a man who is a 7, that man immediately goes his way. Then there are two 5-year-old girls competing for the same guy. Women don't want more competition because they're already competing with time to find a suitable partner before their ovaries die. Men frequently tell me it's fantastic when I go my own way. I'm going on my path because they now have more women to choose from. But do they have more options, or are they just being jealous and don't know what else to say? Because they are weak and require a partnership, women's disbelief and outrage at your decision not to marry them is a different tale. I feel it's a ruse. They want to appear outraged because, in truth, they would probably do the same thing in your situation and stop dating the opposite sex if they could. They know you don't need them for financial or emotional survival. Therefore, they are envious of your capacity to be free of them, even though most of them will never be free of men. Of course, they can be physically accessible if they earn enough money. Still, they have an exceedingly tricky time emotionally releasing themselves because they require an emotional tampon to survive and not self-destruct. Permanent boyfriend husband or some friend zone simp, it's like he's gotten off the love drug and is a better person. It indicates she's going to self-destruct because she's jealous. After all, for every man who goes his way and proves himself, a big cat lady is screaming on her screen because she's not getting a match on Tinder. Then, of course, there is always the notion of normalcy. It's natural to be in a relationship, so if someone chooses not to be in one, they're not normal. We all know that individuals would automatically attack what is unusual or unknown to them. Women don't understand why men don't voluntarily want them. Men are also insulted. After all, if they have a hot girlfriend, they won't be able to make such men envious because they don't care. After all, there is rivalry in the sex industry. It's as if you're winning a baseball game with the other kids, and then some of them decide the game isn't fun and leave. You're still the winner, but you can't make the other kids feel awful about losing. Of course, there are many other things you may tell people than "I'm not getting married or having children," which instantly elicits shock and resentment. You may tell them you're going off to find yourself, but don't mention that it's permanent. They'll accept your choice eventually. Or you can lie and tell them you're seeking a good woman, but excellent ladies like her are hard to find. You're massaging your ego while also getting her off your back. You deny other women's attention while simultaneously giving her attention, which turns off the reason and rationality in her brain. Another reason people are outraged by males who refuse to date or marry because of all insomnia. They believe you're upset and planning a sex toy party because you're envious of all the dildos. What irritates them, and not in a good way, is when people ask when you're getting married and you undermine the concept of marriage by simply laughing at it. It's as if you're dismissing their life choices if they have children, but you're not outright disparaging them. Most men I've done this to have no idea how to respond because they've probably never been mocked for being married by a man before a man who isn't married thinks you're projecting some issues you have with being single. Most people find it unusual that being intentionally celibate is still a part of society. If someone had told me that I would be this way today, I would have thought it was impossible, and that the priests and monks were insane to give up so much for their spiritual convictions. At least they had something to give up cooch tickling for. But a man who gives it up for no apparent reason to the outer world makes no sense. How can a guy justify preceding the pleasures of women's heavenly treasures? Error is not a calculating error. The issue with monks and priests is that they're meant to resist the impulse to play titty twister, but they never went through the first and second stages of red pill wrath. Perhaps they would be far more likely to forsake interest in relationships and devote themselves entirely to God if they had. I'm not saying I believe in God, but I do believe in spiritual energy. I can often feel it in various temples of worship I enter, including the most significant temple of prayer I've ever experienced, the Toronto Maple Leafs game. But seriously, depending on the crowd and certain places more intensely than others, I could feel emotional energy. Outside of sporting events where you felt the emotions of the audience wash over you, the most potent intensity was at a Black Baptist church. Please don't ask me why. That is all I know. I'm sure some of you are surprised and curious about how I ended myself at such a place in the first place, which had a lot to do with the fact that I was doing work for one of my clients. But in a setting like that, people are indeed surprised to learn that I wasn't married. They even threw a nice woman at me in an attempt to lure me into their community, despite society's disbelief that men would choose not to marry and have families. For most individuals, it's like waking up on Christmas morning and seeing black snow on the ground. It simply does not make sense that they believe the danger is worth the benefit for us guys. At this juncture in history, more men are going their own way, while more guys than ever are being labeled as incels, either by choice or necessity. As a result, more men are abandoning the dating and marriage markets. Even those that enter are generally kicked out of their marriages within 5 to 10 years. I'm curious if society will continue to seem surprised that guys don't want to marry when most men are rejected or unable to find a date. I'm sure they'll still humiliate us to try more and be surprised when no one loves us, mainly because we're one of the lower 20% of men with stocky physiques and were born with no neck. What I'm most surprised by is that society doesn't appear to be all that surprised, as more women than ever are choosing to have Instagram relationships with their pets. Nobody dares to advise women that their behavior is harmful. Male attention appears to be necessary for emotional survival in most women. Of course, I'm referring to beta male orbiters and males in the friend zone. Women will always get the attention they require to keep sane as long as those exist. They'll have their hot dogs to give them that hot beef injection, and they'll keep swiping for Chad. But for men, being with the woman will become increasingly tricky unless he puts in a lot of effort and is also blessed with significant genes. I recently spoke with an unattractive middle-aged woman who informed me that she had 3 or 4 such men who pay for her outings to theaters, meals, and short excursions where they paid for the rental car and hotel, but she has no sex with any of them. However, she complains that the men she is dating who she finds attractive refuse to pay for dinner on her theater tickets. It's a test. If they had to pay to take her out, she'd probably no longer want to be with them. I believe she wanted me to tell those good men to treat her like garbage because they have other options. While the bad males don't have many options, they treat her nicely. She continued to talk about how decent guys should treat her properly by paying for things. I don't think she's consciously aware that if they did, she'd lose respect for them. But if I ask her about it, she'll probably start giggling to herself like a 12-year-old schoolgirl who just discovered she has a crush on the kid next door. It's terrible that I'm being evaluated for practice when she should be testing the guy she's seeing. On the other hand, I don't mind because I'm getting paid to perform work for her, allowing me to examine those thoughts up close. She's even surprised I'm not married and don't want to settle down and care for someone. She humiliates me by labeling me selfish as if it's a shame that some poor woman out there doesn't get to spend the money she gave me. I'm sure it would make her feel better about herself if she contributed to another woman's purse habit as I tried to hump her like a rabbit. It's almost as if women paying each other is like keeping their money in the family or something with female-owned groups. Someone else on that Reddit post said something similar and accurately summarized the scenario. Here it is, and I quote, "A double standard. A lady wishes to be single because she is a strong, independent woman. A man wants to be single because he is a prison misogynist terrified of strong women. They can't imagine that there are males who wish to be isolated from women. They are afraid that they will be considered faithful men if enough men do this. If you don't have 6-pack abs or more than 100 grams, it would probably require 50 or 60% of all males to go their way before a supply crisis. In terms of thirsty betas out there, if women couldn't obtain online attention from guys in the West, they'd probably go online and get it from men in the East, given that the world has an average of 4 to 7% more males and females. In general, it suggests that many such men are thirsty. It's a camel-toe cooch desert, providing attention but not receiving anything in return. Unless anything drastic changes due to technological advancements or political decree, many guys will never touch a woman's genital area where she pees. It's no secret that more and more men are choosing to go their own way and live solitary life. But what is the real reason behind this? In my previous video, I will share the truth about why men leave and go their own way. So, if you want to know more about men going their own way, make sure to check it out.